Hey friends, for this video we're going to be talking about a hot and in-demand role at the moment, which is a front-end developer. Now if you haven't seen it already, make sure you go back and check out the other videos, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Similar to the other videos, we're going to be going over what a front-end developer actually does, the day in the life of a front-end developer, 3 tips if you want to get into this role, clarify some myths and misconceptions, and whether this role is going to be relevant within the next 5 to 10 years. So what is front-end development? Well, if you've seen from a previous video about a UI designer would design how it looks and feels in terms of a website or an application. Now, a front-end developer is the people who actually make it come to life. So they actually code and build the actual website and the actual UI so that the user can actually see and interact with it. And for those that already know a bit about coding, the coding languages for front-end development is mainly HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. A really popular framework is also React. So when it comes to the day in the life of a front-end developer and the activities that they actually do from a day-to-day basis, you've probably guessed it. A lot of the times it's very hands-on and a lot of practical coding. The type of coding as well will also be dependent on the project, the client, and the problem at hand. The other type of activities that you'll probably be doing is going to your usual meetings, your ceremonies, for example, like your stand-ups, your retrospectives, your playbacks, and showcases. So although a lot of your time is spent on coding, you still have to do and attend a lot of meetings. It's not all about staying in front of a computer all the time coding. You do actually have to attend these certain meetings. And finally, if you're a front-end developer as a consultant, then it will really depend on the project. Your workload may vary, your time may vary, and it depends if you're actually integrated with a direct team or you have your own team yourself from the company that you're currently working with. So what are some tips that I could give to you guys if you really want to become a front-end developer? Well, first and foremost is that you really need to understand the reason behind why you want to become a front-end developer. Now, why do I say this? Is because if you have a natural passion for front-end development, for coding, for making things come to life, then it will come naturally to you. To be able to have your own extracurricular activities and your own side project is tip number 1. If you have these side projects, it will definitely help in terms of building your development skills. It helps in terms of demonstrating your passion for this and the reasons why a company should hire you. One of the benefits of having your own side project is that you don't have the stress. You don't have the sort of time commitments as you would have if you were on a project. So being able to do it at your own pace will help you improve your skills as you continue to keep developing. The second tip for getting into front-end development is like for most of the other jobs out there. Being able to access free courses online or even paid courses, it definitely helps in terms of demonstrating your skills when you're going into an interview or even when it comes to trying to improve your skills. A benefit of this is that it actually gives you a taste in terms of what front-end development actually is. So as you take on these courses and you're doing a project, you're going to be able to realize, well, is this really right for me? Because you're going to be investing your time into trying to improve these skills or trying to actually code and develop. Now, the third tip would be to always keep up with trends, the frameworks, and the technology guidelines. Now, the reason for this is because you really need to be prepared for a very, very steep learning curve. Just like how technology is changing every single day, so is the certain guidelines and the coding styles and the people that you're working with. So making sure you stay up to date with all the coding languages, the best practices, and technologies. So if you think front-end development is for you, but you still have a bit of concerns in terms of what the role actually is, well, I'm here to clarify some of the myths and misconceptions. First one is, and I've said earlier, is that you're not going to be sitting in front of the computer coding all the time. A part of your job is actually being able to explain technical concepts to everyone else. So when it comes to being a front-end developer, you really need to have some really good interpersonal and communication skills. This is not something that's listed on the job descriptions when it comes to it, but it's something that you really need to have. It's quite critical to the role. You could write up a whole bunch of code in your own different language and pass it on to someone else and they would have no idea what you just written. So you really need to be able to explain these technical concepts to the business users and even your fellow colleagues. This actually leads on to the second myth or misconception. When it comes to coding, you don't need to focus on your speed. It's more about your effectiveness and efficiency. So just because you code fast, generally you get a lot more errors and bugs, and that's not something that's very good when it comes to development. Your code should be as simple as possible and as easy to understand for everyone else, especially if you're working in a big team. So again, remember, speed is not important in terms of writing line efficiencies. It's actually making sure that the quality of your work is actually more important. Another myth would be that in job descriptions, they generally say that you need a uni qualification or a formal education. Now, this is not really as important, as even companies like Tesla at the moment are writing that you do not need a formal education. And I think this is pretty true in the sense that when it comes to front-end development, your experience is actually a lot more important. So being able to show that you have the capability to develop a product or to actually code and build an application in your own spare time already shows your passion, and it really shows that you're trying to improve your skills in coding and learning different languages. Now let's talk about whether this job is going to be relevant in the next 5 to 10 years. I think this is a pretty obvious answer when it comes to it, which is that this demand for this role is still growing, and I think it's still going to stay around for the next 5 to 10 years. Now think about it, Web 3.0, blockchain, all these tech companies, and even the metaverse. All these things are rapidly growing, and they're going to need developers to make sure that we can bring it to life. Not only that, every company is starting to slowly become their own tech company. They're trying to build their own in-house expertise and capabilities. So it looks like the demand for these front-end development roles and even just software developer roles is going to keep growing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the tech is always going to keep changing from day to day. So in terms of the tech and the tools that you'll be learning, for example, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and automation, these things are going to become more prevalent in the future. And so when it comes to being a front-end developer, you're going to need to make sure you keep up with the trends and to make sure you stay relevant. So do I think that this role is going anywhere within the next 5 to 10 years? I definitely don't think so. I think this role is going to become even more in demand in the future. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you haven't seen it already, make sure you go click over here to see what other roles are out there. And if there's any roles that you're curious about, make sure you drop it down in the comments below. Also, please make sure you like, subscribe, and click on the notification button so that you won't miss out on another episode. See ya.